Hey guys, Mix here, and in today's video we are resuming the 1974 MGB engine rebuild. So in last video we got the engine out, and as you can see it's still on the engine hoist, looking all sad, and that is because, well, currently it's stuck in the ground and I can't move it anymore on the grass. And it was such a pain getting it down there. Oh my gosh, it took forever. But tomorrow I have the new crank and bearings coming in. So I would like to try and get this thing onto the engine stand. But what I need to do before that is take off the clutch, and then I'm also going to be taking off this little back housing plate. And then earlier today I went and got some new hardware that should work on the back of here, and basically are going to thread into these two bolt holes and then a couple on the bottom that you can't really see right now. But I do want to get this on the engine stand, so right when the parts come, we can start getting to work on this thing. And I also ordered some gaskets for it, obviously front and rear main seals for the crank, because we will be pulling that. A new oil pan gasket and a new oil pump also, because I'm not really too sure how great of condition this oil pump is, especially due to because all the metal that was in the engine could have definitely gotten to the oil pump, and once it starts it's usually pretty good, around 50 pounds of oil pressure, but once it gets warm it gets down to like what looks like 15 or so, which is pretty bad. So I'm definitely gonna put a new one of those in there. So guys, with that being said, let's just go ahead and get this clutch pulled off. We'll probably check it out. Hopefully I don't have to order any clutch plates or anything like that. I mean, it felt good when it was in the car, but then again, I've never driven it, so I really don't know. So what I'm going to do is probably just jack this up a little bit, probably keep it on the dolly as much as I can, just so it doesn't sway around when I'm taking off the bolts. And then once I do that, I'm going to try and see if I can move it any closer to the engine stand. If not, then I'll just bring the engine stand over, and then I'll try and get it all bolted on. Alright guys, so we just got the flywheel off. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, besides like barely any surface rust, I mean, it honestly looks pretty good. Same with the clutch. The friction pads look pretty good as well. I don't think there's really any need to go ahead and just buy a whole new one, because I'm really not going to be dumping the clutch on this thing, obviously, with all the 50 horsepower it has. But if we come over here to the engine, what we're going to do real quick is we just got off all of the bolts for the little back plate, and I'm not too sure if oil is going to come out. I think it is, and I still have oil in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just, we're just going to go ahead and jack it up, and then just pull the drain plug quick, let it drain, and then once it's done with that, we'll put the drain plug back in, and then just pull off that plate, and we should be able to see the back of the camshaft and everything like that. So, oh yeah, you can definitely see some of it was actually already starting to come out. So before it pops off somehow and absolutely dumps oil everywhere, let's get all of it out. So guys, the rear plate is off, and I was expecting to see more metal in the back of here, like in all these little passageways, but it honestly looks pretty clean, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I was afraid that I was going to have to order a new gasket for this, but I actually already have it from an oil pan gasket kit. Well, I ordered the oil pan gasket, I got a whole kit with it, and it already has this gasket already, so that's good. But if you come over here to the oil, now there's really only a couple minutes of running on this oil. It doesn't look that bad. I thought there was going to be more metal in it. But then again, we did actually clean out the pan and everything when we put on the new rod bearing in an attempt to DIY fix it. So I guess that's probably why it probably didn't burn through all that metal already on the new rod. But what we're going to do right now is get it onto the engine stand so we can get it off this hoist. I just tested the hardware before, and it does thread in, so we should be all good there. It is all good, grade 8 bolts, so shouldn't snap on us. So guys, let's just give this a shot, and hopefully either the Harbor Freight engine stand doesn't break or the bolts don't break. I think it should sit okay. I've seen like big old Chevy V8s on these stands and they've held fine. So let's just see how this goes. Be able to drop this. Alright, there we go. Go all the way down. Take all the chains off. And yeah, it's on. Alright guys, so we were actually back here like 2 weeks later and I just got over having the Rona, so I haven't been able to do much, but we are back, I'm all good, and we got some parts in the mail. So, in this box we have like all new, the rear main seal, front crank seal, clutch alignment tool. I went ahead and got a new oil pump for it, new oil pan gasket in there, and then in here we have the new crank, which I haven't even opened yet, and it came with like the new bearings and everything, the main bearings and the rod bearings, so that is good. And out here I have the engine all ready and good to go. I put a tarp down in case any bolts or fluids or anything come out of this thing. What we're going to be doing right now is beginning the rebuild. So what we have to do first is get the engine turned over. We already drained the oil out of it when we last worked on this thing. I might just tilt it over a bit just to try and get some coolant out of it. Put like a little pan under there and just get all of it out as much as I can. Maybe rotate this over a little bit, try and do the water pump by hand. But then once we do that, I'm going to flip it over, kind of wipe everything down on the outside so nothing nasty falls in. And we'll go ahead and pull that pan and dive in and get to work. So with that being said, let's get started. We are all drained, so now I'm just going to stick the towel back in there so nothing falls in. Now, should be good to rotate it completely over. Yeah, that's pretty easy. So guys, as you just saw, I got the oil pan off and I just cleaned up the gasket surface a little bit, but check this out. Look at all that metal on the oil pump screen, and get ready for this. Look at this oil pan. That is some of the worst metal flaking I've ever seen. So what I actually want to do right now is take off this oil filter, which has never been taken off. I'm going to take advantage now that the engine's upside down, because it is super annoying how they have it as like a canister type way, because, well, when you change it, it just dumps all out when you pull it up. So I'm going to take advantage of how it is right now, and okay, good, it will come off. I'm going to get a pan under there, and we should be in for a treat of what's inside of that oil filter. It's actually, the oil that came out of it's actually not bad. There's not a lot of oil in it, which is to be expected. I mean, this thing hasn't ran, obviously, in a long time. But what I do want to do eventually is take my air gun and shoot air through there and try and clear out, like, the oil passages and everything. And see if I can get some, like, metal chunks to fly out. Because there's got to be stuff in there. There's no way that this screen was able to catch all of it. I mean, I'm sure this oil pump is destroyed too. You can see I just wiped the screen there, and yeah, it's bad. Oh yeah. So here's a closer look at the oil pump, and just on the outside you can see all of that stuff that was all up in there. I mean, it's definitely a good idea that we're switching this out. I didn't get a new screen. I am just going to clean this one up and that'll be just fine. All it is 3 bolts right there on the bottom, but I'm going to do that a little bit later. Wow, look at that sludge. But I'm going to keep tearing into this thing just little by little until we get the crank out. And then once the crank is out, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. You know, clean up all up where the oil pump is, because I can still see the sludge down that little port. But yeah, let's just keep this momentum. Here we go. Moment of truth. Alright, there it is. Alrighty guys, so the crankshaft is out, and as I was just taking off everything, obviously you can see how bad that bearing is. Even some of the main bearings, this one was actually, I think, was producing that gold flake that we saw right in there. Because if we look at the cap, you can see 2 streaks right in it that none of them have. And I'm thinking maybe it was just digging in there. So this crank was definitely shot. So now what I'm going to be doing is taking out all of the bearings and everything, both the main and rod bearings, and just start cleaning everything up to prepare it for the new parts. And then once it's all clean, we're just going to continue and just slap this thing back together. Actually, before we get back to work, I just pulled off this thrust washer, and let's get a good look at that. There are just chunks taken out of this thing. This thing was about to just explode. So I am going to, you know, clean up the block a little bit, probably with some emery cloth. Nothing crazy. It actually feels smooth. I think it was more on the crankshaft side, but wow, that is real bad. The other side's pretty good. Not great, but okay, compared to that. So guys, as you can see, the crank is in, everything is all torqued down to spec, everything looks really, really good, but as you can see, I did put on the timing and everything, and I got it first try. I have a flat edge, and you know, there's a certain way to look at it with MGs, but I got it first try, got this all tightened down. I realized I forgot to put on the back plate, the one sitting right there, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this back off camera. I'm getting very antsy. It's been an extremely long day. It is hot. It's like 90-something degrees. This is not ideal. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix that real quick. And then I want to try and just get the engine completely all sealed up. Well, I guess finished, basically, before it gets dark out. Sorry for all the time lapses in this video and not a lot of talking, but there just really isn't much to talk about. Actually, here's something to talk about quick. I just took off the screen off of the old oil pump, just cleaned it all out. It's kind of just drying over there right now. And yeah, so let me just fix that mistake real quick, and then we'll get back on track. Alrighty guys, so we're actually back here a couple days later from the last clip, and well, that is because I actually ordered some more parts for this engine. So as I was putting on the rods, I came to realize that some of these were in really bad shape. So what I went ahead and did is bought 4 new rods with all new hardware, and that means that we are going to be pulling the head on this as well. So right now I just have 1 bolt just in for the oil pan, just to keep any moisture out while it's sat. And basically what I'm going to do is loosen up all of those rods again, get the caps off, and then we're going to rotate this engine over, pull off the head, pull out the pistons in the rods, and put the new rods in. And this might sound a little bit crazy, but I'm not putting in new pistons or new rings, which is a little, you know, crazy being that I'm right there. But the reason I'm doing it is because, well, first of all, this engine doesn't smoke at all. This engine has had work done before based on everything we've seen. It has, you know, oversized rod bearings. It had oversized main bearings for the crank. So I'm not sure even if the piston, you know, and the cylinders were bored out a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't. I really don't think that they are standard size. So I'm just putting the new standard rod bearings in for the standard crank that I have with all new standard bearings, and I don't think we should run into any issues. I was afraid that if I continued with using these rods, the same thing was going to happen. This should hopefully completely eliminate that from, you know, even crossing our minds. Let's get back to work and start by taking off the rod caps again, and then we'll flip this engine back over, pull off the head, and then once I do that, I have to retake off the timing chain. I already loosened it already, but I have to take that all off again and, well, put on that whole plate that I completely forgot about. So that sucks. Alrighty guys, so as you can see, the head is off, and I just finished up cleaning up the surface a little bit, just getting rid of some of the grime and leftover gasket material. It was super oily just because, you know, I had the engine tilted upside down. There was still some oil all up in there, and it kind of just all came to the top. But this is the actually exact head gasket I ordered, the copper one. I've heard good things about them, but I mean, other than being really oily, doesn't really look blown out in any areas. But what I am going to do right now is start knocking out these rods, and I'm going to do them one at a time just so I don't get them all mixed up with the pistons and everything. And then once we do that, I mean, it'll be time to start reassembling this thing. So guys, as you guys just saw, I just took out one piston, and well, of course, these pistons have pressed fit wrist pins in them. So there's no circlips or anything like that. These are press fit, and the only way to get them off, according to forums, is by hydraulically pressing them. And usually when that happens, the piston gets destroyed. You can see some scratching on the sides. It seems a little worse than normal. I do have my engine hone right here, as you can see. But honestly, as I'm just thinking about it, I'm just going to get the OEM, you know, standard bore size for the cylinders on this engine. I believe it's like 3.2 or something like that. Don't quote me on that, somewhere around that area. And then I'm going to get, you know, the tool to measure the bore. And if it's oversized or anything like that, I'm just going to get oversized pistons. If it's standard, I'm going to get standard pistons. And we're going to put new pistons in this thing, and there's really no reason for me to rush it, because I don't want to end up pulling at the whole engine again, or in that case, just selling the dang car. We have a standard crank, we now have standard rods, and I might as well just measure the bore and figure out what size pistons I need and just order them, just so everything is new. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, hone out the cylinder and everything like that. The cylinders don't look too bad. And I think by then we shouldn't have to worry about any compression issues down the road. Oh, that's a B. That's a B. That's a B. Oh my god. Okay, he's away. Scared him off. We shouldn't have to worry about any compression issues, any oil burning issues. I mean, according to the last owner, it has new valves in it, so we really are just gonna have a fresh engine. The only thing I'm worried about is, since this thing had oversized bearings, or undersized, I really don't know, for the main bearings, I'm afraid that maybe the main caps and the block was machined. I highly doubt it. I feel like they just put bigger bearings in. But honestly, that's, at that point, it's just time for a new engine. But I'm going to gamble a little bit. I think we should be okay. So with that being said, I'm going to be ending off this video here, because by the time I get the new pistons in and everything like that, this video is going to be super long. So next video, we should have the new pistons in, and that's the last part we need to put this thing completely back together and get it thrown into the car. So that should be a next video. So anyway guys, I'm going to be ending off this video here. Follow my social medias, they will be on the outro of this video. Instagram and Snapchat I use the most. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share friends with the channel.